Amy,
Yes, it did work.
that one used to work.
Test. Can you hear mine? Can you
Speak.
hear mine? I am speaking.
Yeah, you're good.
Test.
That's good.
I'm on. I'm live.
Whoa.
Oh,
Close, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't even close.
It was close.
I really Right, it's,
No, that was the Berlin Wall.
all right. You would think would remember how to do this. It's like every time.
Just,
I got it. I'm
You
good.
did it.
I did it.
Harry's yours good?
Yes, thank.
We'll
Can
wait
you
for
hear me
Sam.
now?
Can you hear me now? We're ready when Sam says we're ready. Are we going?
Yes.
Everybody ready? We call to order the November 11, 2019 meeting, the regular meeting of the Signal Mountain Town Council. We will begin with a pledge. Did anyone come who would like to do an invocation tonight? Would you like to, Stacy? Okay. So after the pledge, Stacy will do an invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we come to you right now, we just want to give you honor and praise for this another beautiful day that we have, that we can gather here tonight, Lord, and conduct business. May each and every one of us, as we gather here tonight, do that in a timely manner and in the right spirit. Father, we pray today that you would just be with our town council in a special mighty way, that we might do the right things, and Lord, that they would cause our town to grow, and Father, that it would prosper. Lord, we pray today that you would be with our first responders, Lord, our policemen and our firemen. Father, we pray that you be with their families as they are away from home many times. Lord, I pray today that you would be with our veterans as we honor them. And this is a day of remembrance. Father, be with families that have been left behind because some gave off. Father, guide us in this service tonight, and we'll praise you. Amen.
Thank you. Carol, will you call roll, please?
Vice Mayor Hennessy,
Here.
Councilmember Cheryl Green,
here.
Councilmember Velez, Councilmember Susanna Murdoch, absent. Mayor Dan Lane.
Here. We have no minutes to approve tonight, so we move right on to citizens' opportunity to address council. The normal procedure is 3 minutes-ish to say your name and your address. And come up to the mic.
Where's Dunn?
I don't know.
Keith Bowen, 595 Ohio Avenue.
Hi, Keith.
Hi. You probably all have received the letter that I sent to all the town council members and Mr. Veal. I have prepared remarks, but I thought that instead of reading the speech that I prepared, if you'd all, this is like 3 to 5 minutes or so, if you'd like to just ask me a couple questions based upon maybe what I've already submitted to you already.
Your letter was regarding the recreation leagues?
Correct.
Yes. and
The field proposal plus
Right.
the.
And did you
yeah.
get my email?
No, I did not.
You know, we in your email, you said that you had sent us a letter.
Yes.
I didn't get a letter.
I don't know. I haven't checked my box, so I'll own
Okay.
that. I will go check it.
Mr. Lusk was the one that responded to my letter.
Okay.
Okay.
I wonder if he's the only one who got it, because
Are they in our
Maybe I
boxes?
typed some letter, maybe I typed some emails wrong.
it was, no, but I got the email, though, and
Okay.
and responded to that as well. So, yeah, my response to the email, I think I can remember everything I said, was, for me, I've been in an information gathering process
Mhm.
and interviewed quite a few of the principals, you know, from the stakeholders in the different leagues. We don't know the numbers yet. Oh, you based, and Gail Perry, I want to apologize because this is going to seem like I'm picking on you, but I don't intend to. But he based his email on the article that you wrote that was in the Chattanoogan, and it had quite a few things in it that were just not correct. And that was that causes problems because
Yeah, I didn't attend the meeting, and I prefaced out my letter that was based upon what I had read in the newspaper,
Yeah,
the
what,
Chattanoogan.
yeah, what you do, Gail, matters. And people make, yeah, no, it wasn't. And so there was some information in it that was incorrect. And so this, one of the things I said to you is, I invited you to lunch or dinner, as a
Oh, did
matter
you
of fact,
really?
so we can sit and talk about this.
Okay.
Yeah. Look through your email.
I'd appreciate that. I'll take you up on that.
Yeah, I want to do that.
Okay.
So I'm in an information gathering process. The town hasn't presented numbers to us yet as far as what the numbers would be, so we don't know that side of it yet. When this came up in the budget, I don't know if you remember that, Keith,
I do.
I was uncomfortable with that and asked that it be taken out. Remember that part?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so I'm still not comfortable because we haven't seen the numbers yet. And there's also just for us as council members to make a decision that changes potentially as many things as this does. There's a lot more we need to know, in my opinion. I'm just one person, so.
Well, from our standpoint, as far as the numbers and trying to fund a new town position to do the scheduling, oversee the fields, I found issue with taking that money from registration fees. I know I, for one, did my best to keep league fees as low as possible. Like this fall, all the games up here, I umpired myself, no cost, for free. I do all the field maintenance on that field for free. The registration fee for the 12U fall baseball was $15. We played in a tournament down in Saudi Daisy. The cost per player was $3 to $4. So the amount of money on top of that to actually pay for a new town employee is minimal. And the thought of trying to use tournaments to fund the new town position, I don't think there's any more meat on the bone there either, because typically when we go play tournaments places or around town or around the state, those fees, from my perspective, or you typically go back to the kids. They go back to the kids, they go back to the park, they go back to the maintenance. Like, for instance, in Mississippi, when we did this, we had tournaments every weekend at our park. The tournaments were for travel baseball teams, kind of what was outlined in the Chattanooga article. And the revenues generated from the tournaments at that park went directly back to the rec leagues. So the rec teams knew that you couldn't practice or play on those fields on the weekend because we were generating revenue for the rec kids to keep the cost down. And so if we start allocating revenues from fees, tournaments, all these other things, you start redirecting money away from the kids, the parks, the families, costs go up, and then you're funding a new government position.
So I think everything you said, they're all valid considerations, and we need to talk about all this. And we're not ready yet because the contract, there's two things that get conflated here just a bit. There's the potential Shackelford Ridge change, but there's also the fact that some of the rec leagues don't want to manage their rec leagues anymore. So there's a couple of things that are at play here, and neither one of them is in a place where we can really discuss any particulars yet because the contract with the county isn't, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Boyd, but that's not finalized yet. Yeah, Harry,
You're correct.
that is
It is not final.
Yeah, so we can't, that was one of the things that I wrote you, so we don't really know yet what it is we're trying to discuss. And then the local stuff, we as a council haven't met and really discussed what the numbers are that even support it. So I think the stage that we're at now which is learning from people like you, because you're one of the stakeholders in this, and what you said, I agree with 100%, is that this is about the kids.
Correct.
It becomes about the kids at every stage, and every person I've talked to, from Tiffany with lacrosse, Patrick with soccer, Gandy with baseball, the folks who built the hitting facility, they all did this because they want it to benefit the
Because we
community.
love it.
Yeah.
We're passionate about it.
Right. So keep that passion and bring it to the table, and we'll all sit down and talk, I think, as we get closer to this. But nothing's been decided. Nothing's going to be decided tonight.
Say a couple things.
You bet.
First, that same sentiment was exactly what we went into and navigated the discussions about the Shackelford Ridge Park with, that how to make it work for the kids, for the community as a whole. One thing I did want to address in your email, and I hadn't responded, Dan and I talked, and He understood that he was going to be
Oh,
doing that. Right.
I also, yeah,
One of the things that you, in your email that you pointed out was that the town didn't take care of that ball field and you couldn't get Jared to do things there. And that's because that's not our field. We don't have a responsibility to that. We don't have any obligation to do that. The things that Jared has done, the town has done, has been out of a sense of cooperation and trying to help out. If the agreement were to go into place, then that would be our responsibility and we would be doing those things. So just wanted to make sure you understood that. That's not a town field now,
Which field are you referring to?
the middle field.
The middle
The-
field baseball.
At the high school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the
Yeah,
more
county's
specific
responsible
issues
for
that I outlined in there was the light that I had mentioned that was out, and I've got the text messages from May asking for that to please be replaced. And this is November, I yet don't think it's been done because I umpired a game over there at the end of October.
Again, that's not
Yeah,
for
it's
us
not
to-
our
to do.
field.
It's not our field.
The
at
county
this
said
point.
that was the town's responsibility to replace the light bulbs on the
No.
stands.
All of
If-
the fields are the county's responsibility, yet they don't do it.
Okay.
So parents
If
do it.
The baseball league is allowed to use that field now. So it's an independent league and the county that have an arrangement and agreement. Exactly what that is, I can't speak to. But we have helped out at times, again, to benefit the kids. When we can help out some, we have. But those maintenance issues are not the town's. If this agreement went into place, and that was one of the facilities that we were responsible for, then we would be doing those things like we do at these other fields, except for major repairs, and that would still fall to the county. So I wanted you to understand that it's not that we're not doing what we need to. The things that we have done are actually above and beyond what we're obligated to do in trying to help out. So just wanted you to understand that aspect of it.
And
Well, can I ask a
really do
question?
appreciate you.
Wait,
Yeah,
I want to clarify. You said except for major things would then default to the county, so why would we be doing basic maintenance and then major things fall to the county if we took ownership of it? Wouldn't we be responsible for all of
We
it?
wouldn't take ownership of it. We would just have the use of it, and we would oversee it. And we told them if in scheduling these facilities, we would take care of day-to-day things,
Mm-hmm.
but if there are major issues, fences get knocked down, plumbing issues, electrical issues,
Then it
anything
would go
major
to the
like
county,
that,
okay.
they still have to do it. It doesn't make us sense for us to take on that much responsibility for the return that we're getting to improve the availability of
Okay.
space. So they agreed to maintain responsibility for major repairs. We would just handle the day-to-day stuff.
That's why it was unfortunate that the correct information didn't sort of start the conversation, because you weren't alone. There were quite a few people who were upset. I took a look at the social media stuff. I'm like, I'm not stepping into that, because
Yeah.
it was just, you end up correcting so many things that you don't get to talk about what it's really about, which is, does this make sense for us?
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll sit down at the table with the rest of us when we get to that stage, but we can't get close to that stage until the attorneys are finished
And-
deciding if it can even work out, right?
As far as the scheduling issues go, on that particular field, we start 14U baseball on that field. It's the first time, I believe, we've been doing 14U baseball here. And as far as having someone do the scheduling and such, the scheduling for 12U, like 12U fall, 14U spring, will be with my counterparts from different cities around Chattanooga. We make those schedules and have to adjust those schedules fast. Well, in my email, I said, a lot of times after 5 o'clock, a lot of times on the weekend. When I was in control of the schedule of the field, every single 12U spring team played every single game without any cancellations whatsoever, because largely by the way the schedule was done. And if I had to go through someone from the town to do that scheduling, if someone from my counterpart down in Hickson says, look, we're gonna be an hour late, it's gonna be very difficult. It would be much more difficult for me to have a good quality baseball program for the kids.
Well, let's put that on the table, and I think there's nothing that we shouldn't discuss about this stuff, because we have an issue that our rec leagues are not going to get any smaller.
Yeah.
as more
No,
and
it's
more
only gonna
people
get
hear.
bigger.
Yeah, so it's only going to get bigger, so I think that's what we're all trying to look at. And I've told Boyd this, the only way I'm, as an individual on the council, willing to consider this is if I'm also willing to walk away from the idea completely. But walking away from it also has consequences, because there are some folks who don't want to run the leagues anymore, and we do have, that walking away from it doesn't give us any more space. So I think what we all need to do is sit down and go, let's do a big Venn diagram and find out where we all agree.
What works and what doesn't.
Yeah, where we all agree is that we want to have healthy, happy kids that are playing in rec leagues, in our town.
Yep,
Yeah, and we're also all taxpayers too, so
yes.
we're all in this together, so appreciate that, Keith.
Thank you very much. I
right.
appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we'll close that portion. We have a resolution now that is underneath here. So if you don't mind, and I know we don't have a lot of vets here, but we may have some vets who watch this, and I think this is a solemn and important thing that we're getting to do tonight. So if council and staff doesn't mind, we'll stand and read this resolution. And if those in the audience would mind standing too, that'd be great. This is a resolution recognizing and honoring town employees who are veterans of the United States Armed Forces. Whereas for more than 200 years, individuals from all walks of life have taken up arms and sworn an oath to support and defend the principles upon which our country was founded, and
Whereas throughout our history, courageous men and women have donned the uniform of our armed forces and built a noble tradition of faithful and dedicated service to our nation, and
Whereas Veterans Day has been set aside as both a national and state holiday to honor the millions of American patriots who answered the call of duty, preserving our freedoms and often making the ultimate sacrifice, and
Whereas we can never fully repay our debt of gratitude to those heroic men and women who served, were wounded, or even died in battle. And
Whereas the unwavering commitment of our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen has preserved our freedoms and saved millions around the world from tyranny. And
whereas in recognition of their service to our country, the town of Signal Mountain wishes to especially honor and thank U.S. Armed Forces veterans Jane Phipps, Mike Williams, and Alex Tedrick of the Police Department, Claude Clemens, Lewis Thatcher, and Stacy Seals of the Fire Department, Mickey Bowles, and Thomas R. Post of the Public Works Department. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Council of Signal Mountain, Tennessee recognizes and especially honors those town employees who are veterans of the United States Army Forces and urges all citizens to do the same. I move that we pass this resolution.
second?
Have a second? Any other discussion?
not a bit.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you, Stacy.
thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
We have a few discussion items tonight. The first one that's many pages is the ADA transition plan. So is Sam going to participate in this? Sam did most of the work on that. So- I have about 300 questions.
Fantastic. This, as we mentioned in the last meeting, this has been an extensive process. Sam has headed up and done an outstanding job. This is something that is required of the town to formulate a transition plan for accommodating ADA requirements. And this has to be done and turned in by the end of the year. So this is really our opportunity to address any issues. It was sent to you guys for review. So if you have any questions or concerns, we can address those and have a resolution to adopt at an upcoming meeting before the end of the year.
I do have a couple that came up, and everyone else chime in if you have some from these. On program access, page 4, it probably doesn't matter, but I wonder why we mention students with disabilities within the town, because does that change anything since we aren't dealing with students?
Where, I'm sorry.
It's under 28 CFR 35.150 states that, and then there's the italicized paragraph, and just below that, the second sentence. In addition, qualified students with disabilities must be provided with equal services.
That may have just been an oversight on my part. Some of this language was pulled together from other sources, from other local transition plans and things of that nature. So that's possible that language ended up in there and it can be removed.
We might, I'm not.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily directly applicable to us.
Right.
So I'll make note of that.
Page 5. Yeah, page 5, and I think I know the answer to this, but agency requirements, your second bullet point,
Yes.
may not refuse to allow a person with a disability to participate in a service program or activity simply because the person has a disability. How does that apply to our trails?
My understanding is that trails do not have to meet the same standards that our other public right-of-way places would, as far as like sidewalks, curb ramps, things of that nature. That's my understanding, because I think that they understand it would be impossible, that there are ways to provide compliant trails, but there's also no way to make some trails compliant.
Do we have anything, for instance, the volunteer who wants to build a trail, on this property out here? Are we okay with that?
That being that is a bike trail, it's fine. There aren't any really requirements for that. And what I would point out on this, I think there's a difference in refusing to allow someone to do something and having to accommodate every scenario so that they can participate. We wouldn't refuse to allow anyone to use the trails, period. But if they're physically unable to, that doesn't mean that we're not allowing them to.
Yeah. I just didn't see the language in there that let me understand from reading this document alone how it works with trails.
Okay, and I'll do a little bit more looking into that, just to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Let's see.
And, that you're the one that did this, so correct me if I'm wrong. Really, the idea of the document is to look at, we did self-assessments for all of our facilities and determine what needs to be upgraded to accommodate. And if trails, for instance, their nature was that they were not in need of change, then they're not going to be specifically addressed here. So it's really an idea of specifically addressing the things that we need to address in the town.
I don't know if it makes me feel any safer about, where we have trees across trails that we manage.
Again, my understanding is that trails, in large part, do not need to be compliant for ADA
Okay.
standards. But again, I'll be happy to
Yeah.
make sure that I'm correct about that.
Yeah, I'm just looking out for our interests here.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
I agree
No,
with
and that's
everything you said.
exactly-
I mean,
that's
I-
exactly
Harry, do
why-
you feel like we're covered?
Yes, but I don't know
These
any
questions are exactly why we
specifics
wanted to have
about
this conversation.
a trail either. I think this is a very well-done document, and I think the state will approve it without hesitation. But I can't answer your question. I'm sure Sam's
Yeah,
probably
that's,
right. There's
that's,
got to be
like Sam said, that's
some-
why we're having the conversation, is to
Yeah.
figure out what we need to look at. Yet, on page 9, you've got a paragraph that I think helps with all that. It's the second one. The town has been making ongoing improvements and removing barriers on a continual basis. Therefore, some physical improvements listed in the detailed surveys may have been partially completed or fully completed prior to the transition. So
Right.
it basically says
Right.
we're working on it.
Absolutely,
across the
absolutely. And
board.
it is, I mean, even in the last couple of weeks, we've gotten a few things done towards our ADA compliance with regards to, most specifically with regards to striping parking lots. We've done two different, in the fire and police and also in front of the gym and pool area. All those have been restriped, and now we are in compliance with the handicap parking regulations that the state asks, or that ADA asks us to be.
On page 11,
Mm-hmm.
I think you were looking at this, and this question involves our website. Under General 28 CFR Section 35.160, first bullet point, a public entity shall take appropriate steps to ensure that communications with applicants, participants, and members of the public with disabilities are as effective as communication with others.
Right.
That's the thing that we've got to, Boyd, as we look at the website, get captions on all of our photos and
Right.
make
And-
all those changes.
And that is something, as you look at page 12 and then on to page 13, actually at the top of 13, it's one of the things that we made note of in
The bottom of 11, too, you did.
bottom of 11 and into top of 13, or I'm sorry, yeah, you're right. Yeah, as far as making improvements to our website to allow for the use of different readers and things of that nature that would be more compliant and allow people with disabilities to.
Yeah. I thought it was
fully
interesting that
participate.
the live streaming helps. To me,
Absolutely. I mean, when that was one of the things, it allows people, they don't have to pass any physical barriers to come to this location. They can be where they are and participate in the government.
Those are my major points. Anybody else? Anything?
Good
No, it
work,
looks
Sam.
good.
Thank you very much.
doing
And
that.
I do want to say that we had a lot of participation from town staff in this process. We had members from each department that worked with us on the self-evaluation, because who knows their buildings better than the ones who work in it every day. We also had an assessment team of staff with Boyd, along with Eric Mitchell, our fire chief, and he's also in charge of facilities maintenance. We had our building inspector, Chuck Martin, Kyle Branning from our Public Works Department, who's the engineering tech, and he did a lot of work on the right-of-way side with the sidewalks, all those things, and the evaluation of the sidewalks as well. And then Jared Thompson as Parks and Rec Director, because that is a whole different element than the facilities when you're talking about the parks and ball fields and things of that nature. They're a whole different component. Just wanted to point that out. And I wanted to point out one other neat thing. There was only a couple of mentions of it in this plan, but two of that is all the supporting documentation. I as a visual aid, I wanted to, like I said in the email to you guys, hundreds of pages. But two of those binders are actually all information that we received from a group of UTC occupational therapy doctorate program students, second-year students, who their professor reached out to us after we had done our public outreach to try to solicit input from the public. She reached out to us and offered up their assistance. I unfortunately just got these last week. And so in order to keep everything in the time frame, wasn't able to really integrate a whole lot of what they've done, and really haven't had a whole much chance to go through everything that they've provided, but have made language in here that gives us the full authority through this document to integrate anything that they've put into this. And I just thought that was a really neat partnership that we got to form, that really gave us a whole new insight into this and some outside expert type opinions.
We were
So-
working, of course, at the MAC the day that the students were there. And it was interesting to watch their expressions on their faces as they walked down a hall. Well, here's another door. Where does this door go? How wide is this door? And I looked around at one point and I couldn't find Alex, and he had become their guinea pig. He was riding in the wheelchair as they were making sure that he could fit through all the doors. Worked
That's
out
great.
great. They were there for hours.
They were very thorough.
They were.
In every facility they did, they were here for, or there for hours. And my wife's an occupational therapist, I know Cheryl's daughter is, and so I know the great work that they do, and they really did a great service to us. So I wanted to make sure I pointed out, it certainly wasn't just me, it was a whole team effort of people that made this 50-page document possible from those hundreds and hundreds of pages. So if you guys have any other questions between now and the time we adopt it, please don't hesitate to ask me.
All right. Thanks,
So,
Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Boyd, do you need any specific directions to staff from us to bring this next time for vote?
No, if, Sam will look at those questions that you had, and we'll address those in the next week or so, and well in advance of the next meeting, and if we're good there, then we'll have the resolution at the next meeting.
All right, vicious dog ordinance, I think we were holding for Charlie.
Yeah, these, the remaining items are really just probably fairly brief update items, so they didn't kind of fall off of the radar. On the vicious dog ordinance, Charlie has sent us pretty extensive review and recommendations on the language there. Harry and Sam and I met last week and went through that with our notes as well, and haven't had a chance to compile all of that, but we should have you something to review ahead of the next meeting.
Okay.
Well, one question. The minimum liability insurance, the homeowner's policy that they would have to have, minimum is $50,000. Are we,
I think that's increasing.
I hope so, because that won't pay
Seemed
for
like that
anything.
was going to go up to 100.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Let me see if I've got that.
I mean, it's significantly lower than what we would require for coverage on our properties for something, but I'm pretty sure that's one of the things.
I just
that's gonna
wonder
go
if
up.
it's one of those things that the state
Been
tells
around.
us, you can only put $1.50 in there or something.
Not that I'm aware of, but
Okay,
I
good.
think that's one of the changes is an increase to that.
Good.
We'll double check it.
Amy, anything on that? Lions Club request, Alt House Park.
At the last meeting, we were asked to look at the old pool house building and other options at Alt House. Met with Jared and Sam and I went over there and did that. The pool house and the little bathhouse that was down, used to be where the wading pool was, are all now used by the Lions Club. The train takes up the vast majority of that, but there's one area that they use to work on the train, and there's always one car out there, but that's really it. So we started looking at that and looking how we could reconfigure some of that storage. And I think there's an opportunity to multi-purpose some of that space.
Good.
So I'd like to get with Ralph and any of the others that want. There's water there, there's electricity there, and just explore that possibility with
Have you
them.
talked to Ralph yet?
I have not.
Okay.
No, that's another thing. We went over toward the latter part of last week and went through that and looked at everything. So I haven't had a chance to schedule a time with him yet.
Could we maybe invite him back after you talk to him? just to-
Absolutely.
We talked about the need for a vehicle replacement fund for the water department.
Right.
And that's something that, Carol, you said you'd already done some work on?
Yes, I've looked into it, and one of the things that kind of occurred to me while I was doing that was in the water fund, being that it's an enterprise utility, we depreciate our assets. So we're depreciating vehicles when we get them on. Look back, and from, I'm not sure how long ago, long before my time, that was set at 5 years. So we were depreciating those vehicles and in effect kind of setting money back, but they're not being replaced on any type of a schedule. So I kind of looked through that and talked to Carol about it and see, am I looking at this right? And she agreed. So when the auditors were here, asked them about it, was there any reason we couldn't basically just take that money and set it into a separate account at the end of the year. And they said that they didn't see any reason not to do that at all. So in effect, there's no reason we can't do a vehicle replacement fund for the water department. And there's really no reason we shouldn't take a couple, $300,000 from fund balance and just set it over there now, because that really has been depreciated from equipment, and that'll
Right.
give us the position to, and then as we replace these vehicles, then we set them on a schedule so that we make sure that depreciation matches the replacement schedule, and once they're depreciated out, the funds are there in the vehicle replacement fund, ready to replace the vehicle before it gets beyond what really useful life should be. So there really shouldn't be any obstacles going ahead and setting that up, and we can kind of draft that up and bring it to council, see exactly what it looks like. And
Will the water board need to, it's odd because it's a staff function. It's not like we tell you how to do accounting from the council.
I think it's simply a resolution to establish the fund is all the formal action from the board we would likely need.
Just when you're ready, then I'll bring that back. December meeting schedule, looking at the holiday schedule, we have meetings scheduled for the 28th of November, the 9th of December, the 24th of December, and then the 14th of, it was the 14th or 13th of January.
24th?
23rd is what that one should have been, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway, I'd like to propose, if it is okay with staff, that we just drop the 23rd meeting. That
Yeah.
means we would meet on the 9th and on the 14th. Does that?
9th
I
and the
I think we
14th.
can all agree on that. It's the week of
Well,
Christmas.
we want to know. 13th.
So the
1/13,
the 9th
yeah.
and the 13th?
January 9th.
January 13th.
So we're
and-
skipping a
Oh,
I mean,
January.
meeting.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
December 9th, January 13th.
That threw me. But
Is that
still, November 28th is still, or yes?
November 28th
It's
still, keep it where it
okay,
is.
So
yeah.
28 November, 9 December, January 13th.
Wait.
This year, it's after
20
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I don't know
Wait, the
what-
28th
what
is, what are you
calendar
talking about?
We're looking
The
at.
20
28th is Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
like
that is-
actual Thanksgiving.
25th is
You mean the
night of
25th?
Is the night of the meeting?
Yeah.
How did I get the 28th?
So we'd meet the 25th, the 9th, skip the 23rd, and then resume on January, what,
13th.
13th.
I'm fine with it. Did I say that already?
Does that, doesn't affect anything you guys are doing if you,
I think we'll be fine. I don't know of anything pressing in terms of,
hold it back, Carol.
Carol, I can see your objection. We'll have a discussion if you'd like.
All right, tentative agenda for, let's move that down. Let's do other business and see if there's anything we need to add. We probably ought to do that all the time, because sometimes in other business, we figure out what needs to get added to the
Yeah.
tentative
Oh, I have
agenda.
something. I
Yeah.
wanted to clarify. I talked with the president of Sports Boosters, and when I was on the board, and when we were fundraising for the board, the language that we used was it costs roughly between $70,000 and $80,000 to maintain the fields. That was, I believe, inaccurate. However, we're not calculating what the actual labor would cost because we're doing it ourselves. So I think it does kind of round out, but for purposes of discussion as we move forward and talking about the fields, the Sports Boosters budget's between $30,000 and $40,000 for the fields. But that does, again, it doesn't count the labor of all the parents
Right.
doing all of it. So, that's all I got.
I have a few things. Let's start with Cheryl. Why don't you give us an
I
update?
resent being called a thing, for one thing.
Few items. One of them has to do with this. You know what that is? I thought it was the Berlin Wall when I saw it.
We could put it on eBay and say it was.
Yeah, we probably could. That's some of the plaster that was over the entrance to the MAC that had big crack had opened up in it. And so the volunteers, I'll let you take over,
Volunteer, it was mostly Kent.
mostly Kent Walker.
And
did.
I won't tell you where he was standing when he pulled it down, but he's still alive, so it all worked out just fine. but it came down in pretty much one big piece, and then the corners, other than that, it was quite tremendous. Because of, looks like perhaps some water damage from years gone by, from that little flat roof part up there. Well, actually, this was the second roof, it appears, that had ever been there. It's
Yeah.
not the original. But they may have had the same problem with the original.
That plaster is, that's amazing. They'd been hanging up there forever.
Yeah, it
And
was-
it was disconnected.
It was
so-
totally disconnected because of the rot on some of the wood. The nails that were holding the mesh, the wire mesh up there, had pulled out, and the whole thing was about this far below where it should have been because there was nothing. The only thing holding it up, Mike was right, pretty much was that light fixture.
Was the light-
Remember?
The light fixture, it was held up by the steel.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you-
Anyway, the good news is that's all down and cleared
It's
out.
all down.
And I was up, the EPDM has been replaced. I was up there today painting the triangle part, and the EPDM looks good, but I think you guys are still going to have somebody look at it.
Yes, Eric's arranging that for us, to have somebody check it out
It
just
looks like
to
it's
be
pretty
sure.
solid up there, though.
Yeah.
I mean, most of that roofing all looks good, so it's
Yeah,
old
we're
damage,
going,
we think.
yeah, we're waiting to hear back from roofer before we replace, and we're going to put up beadboard.
The super
planks.
exciting news is the seats are back in the auditorium.
Yes, they are.
And the winter play can go forward,
Mm-hmm.
and it's beautiful in there. It
Yep.
makes you happy to go in. so.
Yep,
Uh,
looking good.
We have, well, again, not everybody's here, so it doesn't matter. We have water training that needs to be done by December. We have to complete our water board training, our
All of
waterboarding.
us?
Yeah, our waterboarding.
I don't,
No, you-
I don't
It's
think,
new
I think you
council
got out
members,
of it.
right? I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, I
Next
thought I
year.
read something.
You have
Yeah,
to do it
okay.
next year. They're also,
no.
what's that?
I roll off council next year.
I didn't sign you up.
No, I still think you have to do it because you're on for 11 months next year, when it moves into the new year.
Oh, well, I mean, I'll do it.
Yeah, in order to participate on the water board stuff, and I know you want to.
It's my favorite.
So, this Friday, we're all invited to go to TML meeting. For those who didn't know, municipal officials are encouraged to attend the Tennessee Municipal League district meetings in order to connect with fellow officials, discuss local topics, and receive information about emerging issues. And basically, this is how we find out the kinds of things that are going to be coming up in the Tennessee legislature that could affect our town for the upcoming year. And so that's this Friday, 10 o'clock in Collegedale.
Beyond my
Staff can
control.
RSVP for us.
Mhm.
And I'm going, you're going for sure.
I-
You're maybe going.
Maybe.
Why would you miss that, Eric?
Not my choice. Believe it or not.
And-
Right now, you, Sam, and I are definites.
Okay. All right.
I actually do have one more thing if you were done, Dan. I didn't-
Let me see.
I don't want to
I
interrupt.
think TML. We got, I noticed, I went to the rec board meeting week before last, and we left the back of the guild room, and it was pitch black out there. And apparently it's been dark for a long time, so that's something I think you got an email about it from somebody else as well. I was really surprised. We were all out there with our cell phones trying to make our way across the grass to get to our cars. It's amazingly dark on that side of the building. Can you give us two questions for staff? How is leaf pickup going? Are we fully staffed? Is that working well with the new equipment this year?
We're in the process of hiring temporary leaf rakers,
Okay.
seasonal employees. Haven't seen those come through yet, but I know they're in the process. But the new automated trucks are being used extensively, and they are doing a really good job.
So
Good.
the system's
Yeah,
working well.
They
Good.
have really kind of tested them in fire and doing all they can with just those. They're using the others, I think, but they're really trying to use those as much as possible, and they have performed very well.
I've been in and had a chance to talk to each one of the kind folks who work for us who are answering phone calls about the water changeover, and they've been really busy. And we're still not out of the incredible amount of work time that they have to do. So where are we on the water meters, automated water meters?
Anticipating our first proposal on those, the company that has a contract for our meter service our tank service and all of that also has a meter program. So we've asked them for a proposal. We've gone through and provided all the information they need. I actually saw a representative when I was in the ICMA conference a couple weeks ago now, and he said they should be getting it pretty much wrapped up. So literally, I'm expecting any time, and I will follow up with them this week.
I'm done. Amy?
Okay, this is more of just a question for us to be thinking about. This past week, I had the privilege of hosting Congressman Chuck Fleischman came to Focus Treatment Centers where I work, and spoke very eloquently on the opioid crisis and how important it is for substance abuse and things of that nature. I talked with one of our citizens, Steve Howell, who is, and I'm not going to get his title right, but he works with Chuck, and he would like to come up here and either speak or just have a visit on Signal, and he asked me to help coordinate that. So I started thinking about it being a centennial year, and if there's any events coming up, or just me thinking in the next 2 months, something where we might be able to invite the congressman to our mountain. Is there anything you can think of?
I mean, we have other events coming up, but
Tree lighting.
tree lighting is the first thing.
That's a good idea.
Not sure. I was just trying to think how that might accommodate something
That,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
He could do
we
a,
can certainly
he could do a
give some thought.
symposium or something here at Town Hall earlier in the day if he wanted to.
Yeah,
He's-
the notion of what we have going on doesn't really limit us.
Right.
We could plan something around that if you'd like.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of throw out some ideas, and obviously it'll be on his schedule dependent, but give him some options. But I thought that was really neat that he wanted to come up to
When is tree
Signal.
lighting?
So,
Tree lighting is the
Exciting.
tree lighting, 7th. December 7th, yeah.
okay.
But that
That-
is so
that might be
kid-oriented,
really
it
soon,
might
too.
not be the best.
With kids, you have their parents.
True, but they're also watching their kids. So,
We could, in between programs, put something on the stage.
we could.
The timeline might be a little difficult,
True,
but I
true.
just wanted to kind of get that conversation going and make council aware, and I'll be in touch with Steve I told him I'd bring it up at the meeting and just
If-
kind of let
Okay.
everyone know.
If you could request some availability options,
Mhm.
then maybe
Sure.
we can fit to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, he won't be coming, I want to clarify for your benefit, he will not be coming to talk about substance abuse. That was just because he was at my
okay.
my work. But that was a conversation that evolved as a result of him coming.
So, anything else?
That's it.
Yeah. The tentative agenda now for the November 25 meeting. That's the right date. That night, both principals from the elementary schools can be here for the thing we wanted to do this week, but they weren't available. Didn't work out, so.
What thing do we want to do?
The two elementary schools are receiving an award, an achievement award.
Okay.
And it's not the kind of thing where they have a presentation at the schools. And so I would like to invite the town officials from Walden to also be in attendance, because they're not Signal Mountain schools, they're mountaintop schools, and anyone else who would like to come for that. Is that okay? I mean, agenda for
So
that
they're
night.
being recognized for an award?
Both schools.
Both schools.
Both
I
elementary
wonder if we should, Kristen Robertson was Teacher of the Year from Signal. She was just recognized. Maybe we would invite her as well, recognize her at the high school.
Yeah, you want to check into that?
Yeah.
That's fine. All right. Anything else that needs to go on that agenda? It sounds like a light one so far.
We will have a resolution for adoption of the ADA transition plan.
I think we eventually need to schedule a series of meetings once those contracts are done, so that we have more than just this venue to talk about the sports thing, because this is something that affects the whole community. I'd like to see that be done over a few weeks, to give everyone a chance to be there. So, when we get there. All right.
Yeah, we will likely revisit a couple of the discussion items again. Just, I'll get with Lyons and we'll look at the Bishop Dog ordinance. And this is just a mechanism to make sure they stay
Right.
moving and we don't lose track.
One more thing. What used to be the gymnasium at the old SME, now the MAC, which more recently had been the Taekwondo guy, had been out there. That building is not being used right now since it was listed as unoccupied during all the sprinkler work and
Reconstruction.
thank you. And that wasn't the word I was looking for, but that one covers
I
it.
made that
Thank
one
you.
up.
Nice word. But it's just sitting there now, and we need to know what it's going to take for us to be able to use that building again.
Okay.
Because we have some interested parties, and it's a shame just to have it sit there for this long. So,
Nail that down.
yep, we need to nail that down. Great.
All right. Everyone okay with adjournment? We are adjourned.
No problem. You should check your email. I wonder if it went into spam. I don't know why it would. If I sent you an email, why wouldn't it just come? It came to the town